Hey everybody, this is Perch, and I'm with Joe. How are you doing, Joe?
I'm all right, Perch. How are you?
I'm doing okay. I still need to come up with new intros.
We'll get there.
We will, yeah. So we're looking at a comic today that is a bit. I mean, I bet people are wondering why are we reviewing this? And you had suggested this. I had a lot of fun reading it, but what got this across your desk?
What was it? I was actually, cat sitting for Martha Thomas's, and she's got a lot of old comics and archive editions and things like that. So whenever I'm there, I always try to read some key issues. I look through things, and this issue was in one of the collections, and it really jumped out to me. I'm like, it's the kind of thing. It feels very Silver Agey, but this is clearly solidly in the Bronze Age of comics.
Right. This was 74, I think.
Yeah, this was 74. This is a full year after the death of Gwen Stacy.
Yes.
And we are having Super Perry White with his magical cigars.
Yes.
And it's so charming. I mean, to give you an idea of what else is going on at Marvel, like Steve Englehart has taken over Captain America and Falcon, and they are in the middle of Secret Empire. The good one, the first one. But not the awful one.
Not the awful one, no.
But we got that going on. Jerry Conway's still on Spider-Man. You're just looking through this and you're like, what the hell is and even at DC, Superboy and Legion of Superheroes, right when this came out was Superboy and the Legion of Superheroes 202, the last Dave Cockrum issue with the Devilfish.
Yep.
That came out the same month as this. Like, it's Superman at this time, certainly in some of the titles, it felt like you were getting the dark and gritty stuff because
Sure.
This is a few months after Batman 251 with that like gritty return to the Joker from Denny O'Neil and Neil Adams. So like they've shown that they can move in that direction.
You got Harvey Bullock coming into play with DC this year. You've got OMAC being introduced. You mentioned Marvel already. This was the year that brought us Iron Fist and Nitro and Deathlock was introduced this year.
Yeah,
the good one.
Yes, the good one. But it's like it felt like this was almost like an Archie type comic that was going on in the middle of DC. The Spectres and stuff, I think, in like Adventure Comics, like there's plenty of horror comics where we're almost a year into Swamp Thing having his own title. Maybe a year into his own title, but yeah.
It was. This was the year that Wolverine was introduced to comics.
Yeah.
Just for perspective. And meanwhile, Action Comics 436, still only 20 cents.
Yeah.
This one it's primarily there's a Green Arrow story in the back, but the main event here is awesome. Is like I said, it's Perry White flying around with a cigar. Yeah,
with all gorgeously rendered by Kurt Swan and butchered by Vince Colletta.
Yes, this is a wonderful looking book that you kind of miss at the beginning. It's got a lot of. I mean, it looks like a charming old Superman book. It's like the Silver Age. You're absolutely right. It has that feel to it.
Yeah,
it's definitely not, but it's a well rendered book and a lot of good detail. This is back when they used to actually draw backgroununs.
So there's backgrounds. The cover is great. I mean, this is a job for Perry White flying to save a plane like that. Yeah. It's far enough in the background, but like when you think of this like plane that's like on fire that's about to crash into Metropolis, that is a much more troubling image than I think they thought as they were putting this together.
Well, yeah, it's not helped by the fact this plane is not like coming in for a crash. It's like 90 degrees pointed almost straight at the ground. Like this plane is going to just land nose first right in the middle of Metropolis.
Yeah, with an interesting cloud pattern of like these long clouds that are like creating a ring around Metropolis. There's a lot going on there that it's very unintentional, but seems very menacing.
It definitely does. Yeah, it's a dark cover for what is a pretty fun book. And immediately, you don't know at this point until you've read the story, why is Perry White? He's zooming out in his suit and with a lit cigar. Like he's not just going to save Metropolis in that plane. He's going to just keep his cigar going the entire time.
Oh yeah, and it's great. The title of the Super Cigars of Perry White.
Yeah,
it's so great. Written by Elliot S. Maggin, who was doing a lot of Superman titles at the time.
Julie Schwartz editing.
Yeah, Julie. It's great there. But then this is also an interesting time in Superman that also got memory hold because like it's not the Daily Planet really anymore. It got bought out by Galaxy Communications, and like Clark's like a news anchor. He's not like a beat reporter anymore. Like there's all of this has gotten long forgotten, and no one references this, but this was the status quo for over a decade in the book, like through the 70s into the 80s before Crisis, like probably almost 2 decades, at least 15 years where like this was like the status quo. It's very, very interesting that everyone acts like that never happened.
Yeah. It's Clark is a news reporter. Again, people forget how long that went on, and it went on for a long time. But I don't know. So this book is kind of charming in that the other thing that strikes me about stories during this time period is that a lot would happen. Like it was a dense story in the sense that there's a lot of movement here in what goes on, and we open with these two basically mutants who are going to help. They basically want to help Perry White because Perry White did a favor for them back in a different issue.
Yes, Superman 265.
Yes, the Army of Tomorrow. Exactly, the Army of Tomorrow. So they levitate their gift into his office. Now you don't see completely clear what the gift is. It's like a box.
Yeah.
And it comes into the office. And I mean, if you read the title, you know something's going on with cigars, but Perry White rushes in, and then we set up that status quo of Superman and Clark. He bumps into a girl. I mean, we're basically setting the groundwork.
Yeah. The interesting thing here, though, that it's hard not to think of is these aliens, these mutants from another world, have the power to teleport like outside the building but not into Perry's office.
Right.
And then they have to use their powers to levitate a box through the window. So like they have the capability to know where his office is.
Yes.
And what the right window is from the ground, but not the power to just zap into his office.
Yeah, it is peculiar. Like why didn't they just go into his office, leave it on his desk? Why didn't they, like, if they're worried about being seen, instead they use powers in the middle of the sidewalk on a busy street to levitate a box of cigars through an open window? I mean, it's just not a great plan.
No, and we see at least like one guy on the street looking at them.
I do, which is weird because the caption's like, before anyone can notice that the two strange people had ever been there, but there's a guy drawn staring right at both of them as they disappear. But, sure.
Yeah, why not?
Why not? So as they're setting this all up, Perry basically gets some news. And then as he would, because his best friend and confidant is Clark Kent, he immediately calls Clark to tell him the great news, which is he's winning an award.
Yes.
What's curious about this style, which I also find kind of charming, is he basically has got his feet up on the desk. He's been notified he won the Pulitzer Prize for this Army of Tomorrow, this kind of same storyline that brought us the cigars.
Yeah.
And Clark's like, well, hey, it's your second Pulitzer. And Perry's like, it's my third, but no great shakes. Like, yeah. But you called Clark. Like, it's not a big deal. Why did you anyway? He calls Clark and basically is saying, this is no big deal, but let's fly you out to New York in order for you to cover this thing that's not a big deal. which it checks out.
Yeah, sure.
And then Clark's kind of pissy because he's like, I just flew back from another planet and I have to get on a goddamn plane.
Yeah. He is not happy at all.
So they board this plane, and as planes do, there's a pressure leak, and the pilot passes out.
Yeah,
Yeah,
as with all planes.
Yes. And so, as the plane is about ready to crash, Clark needs to go to the bathroom.
Yeah, because he feels sick.
Yeah.
He's got to take an air sick pill.
That's right. I like how throughout this entire thing now, meanwhile, it's a gentler, kinder time. Barry is just smoking his cigar the whole time.
Oh, yeah. Does not miss a beat.
And he's angry because he's helpless, and Clark is in the toilet. And so he accidentally punches a hole in the plane and jumps out. I love the origin story here. Like most people, they when you realize you have powers, you accidentally like lift up a car, or there's some kind of shenanigans. In this case, he punches a hole in the plane and flies out of it.
Yeah.
Clark gets changed to come to the rescue, but the shock here is that Perry White is flying around, lifting up a plane. Superman seems content to just let Perry do this as well. He's like, it's Perry's flying, but you can take care of it. I'll just hang out while you go ahead and put this plane down. No problem. Superman seems very relieved to not have to do his job.
Yeah.
So the confusion here is that why does Perry have powers? And what weirdly they get on another plane because you got to still get to a award ceremony. They're kind of bearing the lead that Perry White suddenly magically has powers. Perry just continues to smoke again the entire time.
Yeah.
As I read this, is part of the message here that kids should smoke more?
It seems like, and this seems pretty late in the game to be having a message like that. 1974 seems like I get it, but it's also like we're kind of at a point where it's like maybe we're not telling kids that cigars will give them superpowers. But
I mean, when in the 70s, because it was in the 70s, right, that Marvel and DC started doing those almost the PSA comics where it's like the dangers of drugs and alcohol. And
yeah.
But in this one, hey kids, cigars can give you superpowers.
Super power cigars also make you say things out loud that should be thought bubbles. Like at the bottom of page 5, where what was it? Perry White just goes, "Great Caesar's ghost! I knocked a hole in the wall of the plane, and the air pressure is sweeping me out," which is an exclamation point. Question mark?
I do. I appreciate the narration here. It's very charming.
It's charming, but also he's saying that out loud.
Yes.
That's not a word balloon. And there are plenty of word balloons in this issue. I wonder if that was an error.
Yeah, I would think it has to be, because 2 panels later, we do have a lot of thought bubbles here. And that's a weird thing to just narrate out loud as you're being sucked out of a plane. But, I mean, it would be a surprising situation. So maybe I would be narrating my imminent death out of a plane as well. I like how he's still able to do all this and keep the cigar lit as well. It's like there's no problems. But they do arrive in New York, as people do in this world room. 2 other kind of rival reporters immediately decide they want to fuck with Clark.
Yes.
And Perry, who's pissed at seeing them screw with Clark, decides to use his. He lets loose with a super gust of cigar smoke and blows both of them over, which again is a pretty awesome power if you're picking up smoking.
Yes.
What's also funny is that Perry's kind of trying to keep it on the down low that he's got powers. But then there's some shaking, and he immediately flies up and then just starts moving big marble panels of pillars around, and then flies out of a window. Like he immediately discards the secret identity.
Yeah, he seems to have no interest in it, despite the fact that he's a reporter who has often sought Superman's secret identity.
Yeah,
and which is really, I think, an unintentional critique on privilege.
Jesus, Joe. The older white guy gets powers and immediately throws away all of his standards and ethics.
Why would he have to care? He's just gonna super blow cigar smoke at people and knock them over.
Well, the other two look pretty privileged as well, if it helps any.
With a super gust of cigar smoke.
Yeah, it's no. There's some good comedy here. So I love the dialogue. I love the holy Hannah. Will you look at that? Perry White must be Superman's secret identity. And then again, announcing kind of what's going on. My X-ray vision is showing the troubles coming from an underground room across the campus, and then he just flies out the window. The dialogue is charming here.
Nice. Yeah.
So
it's nice stuff.
it's no Hellfire Gala, but it's fun.
Yeah, I do enjoy that people also then assume that Perry White must be Superman's secret identity. Like, oh my God, you really think that Superman? Like, you've seen Superman. You think Perry White, who looks much older.
It does bring into question. I mean, it's confusing how the simple glasses approach on Clark befuddles everyone. But they put two and two together, and it's like, well, I mean, it explains a few things. Like if they're thinking, well, Perry is clearly Superman, it means that everybody here is an idiot. It is a journalism conference.
Okay.
Yeah. So they both decide to fly across town. And Perry is, again, being very generous. I'm sure glad a professional superhero is able to handle this. I mean, which, again, you got a guy in a business suit flying around with a cigar, so why not? And this monster machine comes up from the ground, and they immediately just start blasting Perry. And they kind of, it doesn't show it really well in the panel, but they basically kind of blast the cigar out of his mouth. There's like a tiny little line.
Yeah.
But the cigar gets blasted out of Perry's mouth, and he feels all of a sudden normal.
Yeah.
You can't stop smoking. Once you start, you got to stick with it.
Yeah, exactly. It's oh God, but yeah, it's as long as Perry gets that exclusive story.
Yeah.
Yeah, do your stuff to wipe out that crime tank, and I get the exclusive.
Yeah, he reverts to kind of being a dick very quickly.
Also, I love that it's a crime tank.
Yeah.
Standard issue crime tank over here.
Well, what else are you going to call a bright green tank with a bubble and a drill in the front of it? That's clearly a crime tank. I also like in the same page. So Superman's like figuring out what he's supposed to do here. He uses X-ray vision. He kind of comes to the flaw of the tank, and he basically flies off to do what he's got to do to save the day. And the fickle a-holes of New York are just immediately assume Superman's turned on him. He's flying up to this tank, and the people immediately assume he's given up. Screw that guy. Like
we haven't been following this guy for the previous 435 issues and spinoffs.
That was always the thing that bothered me about Superman for years is like, he'd be like, well, there's a huge raging fire here. I better go get some water. So he'd fly out to get some water. And as he's flying off, people are like crapping all over him. Like, where are you going? Why? Oh my God, Superman's turned yellow here. He's not going to save us. It's like, what do they expect him to do? Just pee on? I mean, yeah, it's all very strange. So Superman just happens to know where there's a secret nuclear reactor underneath the engineering building of the universe. This is one hell of a university, by the way.
It's one hell of a university, and also one hell of a secret to just drop on. Like, there's a secret like nuclear reactor underneath a major metropolitan like center. Like, that's not good.
You wouldn't think so. Like, do other New Yorkers know about this? That there's basically an underground nuclear power plant powering the college? Is that really the best use of? Oh well, anyway. And this super tank is basically the power source. So Superman goes in. Whenever you're trying to shut down something, the approach is to grab both poles of the reactor. And with a scene bright enough for the 4th of July, he absorbs the nuclear power.
Yeah, that's not good. This is all bad stuff.
I'm absorbing enough nuclear power to light up a city. I mean,
That's not good that much power is under there, apparently going unchecked at this university.
no, and I also like how it shows Superman grabbing two poles to basically absorb all this, and there's some guys in the background kind of just looking at him like, "Hey, what's Superman doing over there?" I mean, I think everybody in the vicinity is very dead.
Yeah. Yes.
But anyway, this apparently because the tank is using remote power.
It's using remote nuclear power from the hidden nuclear reactor under the city that's part of the university.
Everyone here has cancer, right?
Yeah,
I mean, in
yeah.
this comic, like the entire city is filled with cancer, I would think.
Oh yeah, no, this is bad for no one gets out of this.
I also, so the tank stops and Superman delivers this puzzling line as well. Next time it moves is when I kick it over, friend, if you don't come out of there quietly. Why didn't he just kick it over right away? Like,
I don't get why he couldn't have just busted through the top and ripped the guy out of it.
yeah. I mean, he's powerful enough to absorb enough nuclear power to light a city, but he's like, he can't stop a crime tank. That seems strange to me, but
yeah,
anyway.
I would say nonsensical.
It's fun though.
It's like, yeah, I think we all have someone in our lives that always ends up taking the hard way.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like that.
Okay, that's fair for
Yeah.
sure. So Perry comments that that's how a professional superhero does it.
Sure.
And then holds like a kind of a press con. Well, he still gets his Pulitzer Prize, and then he holds like either this a press conference or he's just talking to some other privileged reporters.
Yeah.
And he's basically
he's openly smoking.
Yeah, and he's he's openly smoking, and he wonders. He gets a very strange idea. It's like, I am not, nor have ever been Superman. It's only over the past few hours I learned I have any power that I want simply by asking for it. Which you'd think he'd ask for then a million powers, but anyway, he decides he wants to. He's like, why don't I ask the power to know where my powers came from? Which is that's a deep thought there. He's gonna reveal the power through his powers. That's some crazy shit right there.
This gets really trippy really fast.
Yeah. So he learns this that there's another planet by those four-thumbed mutant kids. How did they have two thumbs each hand? Is that what's going on? I think two thumbs and three fingers is what was.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay. I don't know why.
Yeah, why not?
But they built an ultra metropolis, and they held a meeting saying we must give a gift to our benefactor Perry White, and then they picked these two schlubs to go deliver it, and that's where that flashes us back to the beginning where why, again, if you're going to give him a gift, why would you then they take out his old cigars and they'll substitute with their cigars, but they're not leaving a note or anything, so they're just like he'll be pleased. I mean, there's a world where Perry White just sat at his desk and smoked cigars and none of these powers ever exhibited because he was just hanging out, surfing for porn or whatever he does in the afternoon.
Yeah. I don't know. It's like maybe you're not getting superpowers so much as that's not a regular cigar if you're having these visions of mutant world.
Yeah.
And people sitting on floating chairs.
Maybe there's some LSD in those cigars. Yeah. I also like this line. So as he gets this flashback, he goes, Great Caesar's Ghost. So this is where my powers came from. And I only have one super cigar left, which indicates that it's only over the past few hours he realized he's had these powers. So he's basically telling us that he downs a box of cigars every day.
Yeah, it's a lot of cigars.
Like he's how many cigars are in a box? It's usually a dozen, I think.
Yeah.
Somebody in the comments will call me an idiot. It's actually 7, dumbass. No, I think it is 12. But he's smoked a crap load of cigars in a very short amount of time. So he basically, epilogue the next day. He calls Clark because again, Why is he calling Clark all the time? It's like these two are exhibiting a relationship that I don't. I mean, I memory hold this relationship in the comics where Perry's like, I'm just calling to chat. How's your day going? What you doing? Feeling cute. How are you? It's weird. And he's like, the Pulitzer Prize certificate. Yes, I'm looking at it right now. It looks beautiful in a frame on my wall, and I'm sure that prize will come in handy for something someday. And he kind of is drawn with like a smirk and a wink, which Clark can't see. He's on the phone, but
Superman might be able to see because of his wink detection power.
That's that's true. I came across a Superman comic the other day that where Superman. They revealed that he had super sneezing powers, and he basically annihilated a galaxy at one point with these powers.
Wow, that's like got to be worse than what Phoenix did to the broccoli people.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, he's murdered way more people. Anyway, so he basically he's like, "It'll come in handy," wink, and then apparently Clark's like, "What do I mean by handy? Oh, let's just say that's another mystery." Again, why are you talking like this to your BFF Clark? This is a very weird conversation.
Yeah, it's.
I mean,
it's very, very weird.
He basically takes his final magic cigar and he puts it in the safe. Now, there is a world where actually none of this happened, and Perry was just getting super high off these cigars, and what we read was just a complete hallucination, all of it.
Yeah, it's an imaginary tale, but aren't they all?
Yeah, it's anyway, that ends our story with a promise. I like how they would tease the next announcement of the special 100-page issues, and the hype is a brand new Superman novel. So they're taking their comics seriously.
Oh yeah,
magic is busting out all over.
Oh no, they had me for a minute there, and then they lost me right away.
They even give us bustin' with the apostrophe in. That's all you got, bustin'.
Yep.
So anyway, with the accent on action, I don't know. It's a ludicrous story, but you enjoyed this story.
Oh yeah, no, this is great. I love this kind of stuff because it's just it's fun, and it's okay to have fun with the stupid Superman comic. It's okay.
Why when a publisher is producing, say, 40 to 60 comics a month, why can't, there's a writer out there who could do this.
Yeah.
Why not one comic? Do people really think that this kind of charming Silver Age, Bronze Age, nostalgia is supposedly really big right now. Why not one title like this?
Yeah, well, the problem is they do some titles that are kind of like this, but they all miss it because they're trying to add something to it that wasn't there.
Yeah,
and they're still trying to fit it somehow into modern sensibilities, and it's like, no, stop it. Just do something like this. Stop trying to make it like it's today, but then.
Wouldn't there be a route here? You can just tell me how stupid this idea would be, but couldn't you take these same stories and basically redraw them, but keep the story intact as just kind of a fun, silly bit of nonsense and just modern art, old story? I feel like a limited series of that would be fun.
Yeah.
It can't be worse than some of the other stuff that we're getting.
No. It can't. It absolutely can't. But yeah, I don't know. There's some comics now that, yeah, I don't know. And I'm not trying to knock them or anything like that. But like Batman Superman right now is trying to do some stuff like this.
Yeah.
But they don't. It still misses the mark because it still feels like it's trying to be.
Yeah.
Updated. Like there was the bit where it was like, oh, it's another Bruce Wayne and he's a mama's boy, but he gets turned into Bizarro and then he stops being Bizarro and now he's like Two-Face and said, fuck that stuff. Don't fucking do that. I hate it. Just tell a goofy story.
You don't need to. I think that there's this insecurity where the writer wants to make sure that the readers are aware that they're deliberately doing camp. We know we're doing something campy, We know we're doing it intentional. We're not stupid. We promise.
Yeah.
This is us doing a bit. And I think everybody knows you don't need to spell it out like that. And it's fun. It's just this is a fun comic. It's definitely wacky. I would create conversations like we just had. I miss this time. I love this era and when Superman was a crazy asshole era of comics. Those were just, I love those books. Did they matter in the grand scheme of things? I mean, you could read them in pretty much any order. It really didn't matter, but it's still, these were very enjoyable titles. So
yeah.
Well, I hope we should look at more of these. What other things would you like to look at in the future?
I know we talked about Action Comics 554,
yes.
The World Without a Superman, which is that's a charming, but it's a little more serious, but it's a charming story. I really want to do Brave and the Bold 28, the first Justice League, and like really give it to Snapper Carr.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Like what a ridiculous character. Right? They call me Snapper because when I'm happy, I snap my fingers. Like,
yeah, not
it's like, yeah, it's you kids. You gotta read it and just enjoy a precursor to Poochie the Talking Dog.
Yes, for sure.
Was I don't think you get Poochie without Snapper Carr.
No, I think that's the origin there. I'd like to kind of hammer in Crimson Avenger with you at some point, knock that one out. Put it down. I think that would be a fun one to do.
Yeah.
So there's a few that we should go back, but these are fun books, and by and large, I have no idea what the value of this is right now, but I can't imagine it's too terribly high.
Oh no, this I'd be shocked if you had to spend more than like $5 for something like this. Like you shouldn't have. Like there's no key in here at all. I mean, the backup Green Lantern is drawn by Dick Dillon.
Green Arrow, right? Green Arrow.
Green Arrow, yeah. Green Arrow. But it's all the same. Well, Green Arrow, Green Lantern. Who cares? But it's Dick Dillon, who everyone kind of forgets about, but did some really great art in the 70s, in particular, and stuff like World's Finest and some other books.
This is a fun comic. I mean, the art, like you mentioned, the art is really nice in this. It's clean. It looks good. There's not a lot of wacky nonsense. It's not decompressed into 50 issues. Where I mean, in today's world, what I feel like they do is they would replace Superman with Perry for like 24 issues or so. Superman would be. Perry would like get the cigars. They'd relaunch the book with a new #1. You won't believe. And then 24 issues later, then he'd run out of cigars, and we'd get Superman back. That feels like today's version.
Yeah. Perry's in a giant robot rabbit suit.
Sure. Yeah. Nobody would do that.
Yeah. No, that'd be ridiculous. But yeah, stuff like that. But yeah, it would certainly be a full issue. Like a full length issue. You wouldn't do this in 13 pages if you did this now. Like,
it's good stuff. I think, go out and buy some of this stuff for your life. Everybody needs some wacky Superman books in their collection somewhere. They're fun.
Absolutely. You get too serious. Why so serious?
Why so serious indeed?
As
a wise man said. Yeah.
Yes. A wise man said before being murdered by the Olsen twins.
Yeah. Exactly.
So, yeah.
Well, Joe, thank you very much. This was fun. And let's hit some of those other issues.
Yes, absolutely. It's going to be a good time.